Cheers, we're live with the incubation engineering.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Sid. Thank you all for joining. I have the first topic. So after a long wait, I had a few terrific days for Cloud Seed. First milestone, we got the verification from the Google App verification team. Now GitLab.com. Yes. Since April, we've been waiting since April, but now GitLab.com has the service management scope, which means GitLab.com can manage cloud resources for all of our users once they go through the OAuth flow. That's one.
Amazing.
Second, we have a presenter slot at Google Next, October 11th to 13th. So Great. This means super busy next 2 weeks for me, but very exciting as well. So that's the second thing. And so in that regard, just there'll be focus on building video and some other PDF resources, get that through the legal approval process, and then submit it to our folks and colleagues at Google. Work on a few dashboard things, documentation, all of that. And post next, I think that we will have a bit of momentum. So it'll be a nice time to launch customer outreach first jointly with GCP, but also follow up on internal leads that we have. So a question for you in terms of, two asks, one question and one ask. So the question is, any generic tips or suggestions or specific talking points you'd like mentioned in the Cloud Next talk?
I think I would say, look, with this, you no longer have to choose between convenience and ability to grow, because it's always been that trade-off. Do we use Heroku, Fly, Render, Vercel, something like that? Or do we use a hypercloud that I can scale into that has hundreds of data centers, hundreds of services? And it's a false choice, right? You can now have the best of both worlds. You can have the convenience of Cloud Seed backed up by the massive infrastructure of GCP, so that you don't grow out of it. Today, Heroku had a blog post that they're shutting down their free tier because it was causing them a massive amount of handholding, and it was holding back them from innovating. And that is a hard choice. Like, people grew out of Heroku at a certain point. So the solution is start with Cloud Seed and start with GCP, where you don't grow out of, that can handle the biggest companies in the world, but still get that same convenience.
All right, thanks for that. Second ask is something you mentioned a while ago in terms of introduction to Kelsey Hightower or similar social media influencers in the cloud space. So I think now is a good time, or as we lead up to Cloud Next, October 10th, 11th, 12th. I think that's a good time. So in lead up to that, we can reach out. Thank you. Right. Okay, cool. The second thing is just an idea that I had, but I think it might be worth exploring. In the tradition of stepping on toes, I'm thinking of introducing the ability to automatically rotate the deployment credentials. So if you remember in Cloud Seed, let me just see if I can show you what I mean exactly. So for example, with Cloud Seed, you can go into Infra, Google Cloud, and you have this ability to look at your deployment credentials and create new ones. But wouldn't it be nice if I could just press a button and rotate the existing keys, or have some sort of configuration option here, say automatically rotate every few hours or few days? So I'm thinking of exploring that. I know we're hiring somebody to work on, we're hiring an SEG to work on Vault or secrets management or something in that space, I believe. So I'll probably collaborate with that person once they're hired, but this is a direction I'm considering exploring. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think the answer to that is yes and do both. Like they should be automatically rotated on a cadence. You don't automatically rotate, it tends to like break when you manually do it. So it's just good practice. And then it's nice if there's also a button. Suppose someone took over your account, you gain access to your account back. The next step you take is resetting all your credentials. You don't want to wait for the automatic one because the automatic one is not going to be every minute. So it makes sense.
Right. Thank you. Darby, you have the next one.
Cool. Thanks, Ree. So I have an issue linked here. I'm kind of proposing this, I guess I'm calling it a repositioning of my group. And it's like a little bit of a name change and then adding some just more kind of supporting materials and things like that. So changing the name to just mobile DevOps, and then adding like a page in the docs, adding like a section in the app, and then possibly a marketing page.
What is it now?
DevOps for mobile apps.
Oh, that's way too.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
Mobile DevOps makes sense.
And then, so yeah, I just kind of wanted to get your feedback on that. If there's any other areas I should be thinking about, or if, you know, if something seems a little weird in this, but there's kind of a lot of things that we have already, but we're not really directing people to any area. Like there's no part of GitLab that speaks to mobile developers really. And like, as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing like, oh, well, this is just kind of a gap that we could pretty easily fill with just some documentation and kind of like giving us a focal point to start with. And then we'll add to that as we build out more features and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah, like it's great. And it's a giant opportunity. Like there's great companies like Instabar comes to mind. They just do crash analytics and APM for mobile apps. That's a giant business that's a great business just in and of itself. So this is great. It's super big. Glad you're focused on it, and a great name change.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. I don't see anything from anybody else. I see Yannis in the call. Yannis, can we talk a little bit about kind of what's next? You're first making the wizard.
Yeah.
The plan of record was to do comments for blogs after that, which on one hand, like I can't believe we're still using Discuss on our blog, but I think we're shifting a bit to kind of make sure we have server-side rendering, and we're
I have several tracks. Originally, I was planning just to investigate a little bit around that. Comments was the simplified use case, but basically it was an API generator. I'm a bit held up by Cloudflare because they're not releasing D1, which is fine. My focus has, because of that, shifted towards the server-side rendering, which is something I've been planning for a longer time. Basically investigate how we can support server-side rendering using JavaScript runtimes, maybe Cloudflare workers for that, or potentially Fastly's computed edge, which is pretty much the same thing. So we have those JavaScript runtimes. They're not running on, we don't need to provide the infrastructure other than getting it from there. And I want to be able for self-managed to have the same thing, either by connecting their own Cloudflare instance, like
instance, just connecting their own
Cloudflare account, yeah. Maybe do it using an integration. We have those little integrations where you can set it up. Or alternatively, just do it on a project level. So I'm still trying to figure out what's the most convenient way to do that.
I would do that maybe first, because like if our infrastructure is going to run like Cloudflare workers and stuff like that, like I don't know, you might have, I don't know, zip bombs and stuff like that use a giant amount of compute.
So you'd rather have users even on GitLab.com connect their own Cloudflare instance, just like we do
otherwise
on.
you have a massive billing issue, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise you're like, hey, I know that we're still working on billing for transit, but can I already get some minutes counting towards Cloudflare workers? And they feel like, I don't think you're going to get anything shipped that way.
Okay, no, that's a good idea. Yeah, was still in the exploration phase in that regard.
And are Fastly and Cloudflare the only way to run workers at the edge?
I guess there's a few other options as well, but you probably want someone with a very stable and established edge network that users are familiar with and where users might already have their account. So I'm just looking at the big ones here.
Cool. And Dino is using Cloudflare workers, Dino Flare or something like that. They don't have their own stuff.
Dino is Dino Flare. I don't know Dino Flare. I know Dino, that's a JavaScript runtime.
It's funny that like there's Cloudflare and Fastly, and then there's a whole bunch of nothing, right? I don't know of another offering that has like 100+ points of presence where you can run JavaScript workers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult business having those workers running. I'd love to experiment with Bun as a JavaScript runtime, but I think that's too much in its infancy to be a viable solution at this point.
I think we gotta move to like having server-side rendering as fast
as I think Cloudflare workers, they have a very established it's a very established runtime. So there's already adapters for all the frameworks. And I think that's probably the safest choice.
I would do that. I think we're already a Cloudflare customer. They have more innovation coming out of them. They have a higher market cap. It makes so much sense to do full Cloudflare. So I'd say focus on connecting a project or namespace to probably a namespace, right? The new namespace thing, namespace to Cloudflare, and then let me do server-side rendering. Let me kind of use it. No longer have a need for Vercel or something like that.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Cool.
All right, that seems to be it. So thank you everybody for joining. Thanks, Sid.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.